Maplewood Estates looked like every other quiet suburban neighborhood in America. Manicured lawns, white picket fences, and rows of identical houses where everyone smiled, but no one really knew each other. It was the kind of place where the loudest sound on a weekday was the whir of sprinklers or the distant bark of someone's golden retriever. That peace was about to break. Sergeant Ethan Cole, 34, had just returned home from his third deployment overseas. A 10-year Army veteran with a calm face and strong build, Ethan was used to chaos, but not the kind that came from an HOA. He'd moved to Maplewood 2 months ago, looking for a quiet life with his wife Rachel and their 8-year-old son Ben. Their home was modest but proud. A neatly trimmed lawn, a weathered American flag fluttering on the porch, not a fancy decoration, but his. It had flown over his base in Afghanistan, and every morning, Ethan would pause for a moment to salute it. The neighbors mostly kept to themselves, except for one, Karen Holbrook, the self-appointed queen of Maplewood Estates. She was the head of the HOA and treated the community like her personal kingdom. Always in floral blouses and oversized sunglasses, Karen had a clipboard in one hand and a complaint in the other. It didn't take long before she noticed Ethan's flag. One afternoon, as Ethan was washing his truck, a dusty, Army-issued green pickup he'd brought back from base, Karen marched across the sidewalk like she owned it. "Excuse me," she called out, voice sharp as glass. "Are you aware that your flag violates community guidelines? It's too large." Ethan glanced up, water hose still running. "Ma'am, it's a 3x5. Standard issue." Karen pursed her lips. "Well, standard issue or not, Maplewood has a very specific aesthetic. Flags should be decorative, not military." Ethan wiped his hands, his tone steady. "That flag's been with me since my unit lost 2 men overseas. It stays." Karen scribbled something on her clipboard. "I'll be issuing a fine. HOA rules are rules." Rachel stepped out from the doorway, sensing the tension. "Karen, he just got back from serving this country. Then he should understand discipline." Karen snapped, before turning on her heel and walking away. Ethan stood there, jaw tight, as the sun glinted off his flag. He'd seen arrogance before, but this was different. It wasn't about power. It was about disrespect. That evening, as the family sat for dinner, Ethan's phone buzzed with a notification, an official HOA email. "Violation notice, unauthorized flag size. Fine, $200. Action required. Remove flag within 48 hours. Rachel sighed. "She's really doing this?" Ethan's eyes lingered on the flag outside the window, still fluttering proudly. "Yeah," he said quietly, "but I'm not backing down." The next morning, Maplewood Estates woke to the sound of hammering. Karen Holbrook opened her blinds and nearly spilled her coffee. There, across the street, Sergeant Ethan Cole was installing a bigger flagpole, nearly twice as tall as before. The same flag, now soaring high above the rooftops, caught the morning sun like fire. Her jaw dropped. "He's defying an HOA notice," she muttered, already grabbing her phone. By noon, Ethan's driveway was crowded, not with soldiers, but with neighbors. Some whispered in admiration, others worried. A few secretly took photos. "Guy's got guts," said Mike, the mailman, shaking his head. "No one stands up to Karen." Inside, Rachel watched from the kitchen window, worry etched across her face. "Ethan, she's not going to let this go. You know how she is." Ethan adjusted the bolts on the flagpole. "I know exactly how she is," he said quietly. "And I know what this flag means. I didn't carry it through sandstorms just to have someone like her tell me it's too military." That afternoon, Karen arrived, clipboard in hand, flanked by 2 HOA board members, cameras rolling on her phone. "Mr. Cole," she said, her voice loud enough for the entire cul-de-sac to hear. "You are in direct violation of community standards. You've ignored a formal notice, and now the fines have doubled." Ethan turned, arms crossed. "You can fine me all you want. That flag isn't coming down." Karen sneered. "Then you'll leave me no choice but to escalate this to enforcement. We'll contact the county, maybe even law enforcement." Rachel stepped between them. "Karen, he's a veteran. A decorated one. Can't you show a little respect?" "Respect?" Karen snapped. "Respect is following the rules that keep our neighborhood beautiful." A voice called from across the street. Old Mr. Jennings, a Korean War vet with shaky legs, but a strong heart. "That flag is beautiful, Karen. You've just forgotten what it stands for." The crowd murmured. Karen's cheeks flushed. This is not up for debate. HOA rules are not above honor. Ethan cut in, his tone calm but firm. Karen stormed off, muttering something about troublemakers and military ego. By nightfall, every porch light seemed to burn a little brighter, every neighbor peeking through their curtains to see what would happen next. Ethan sat on his porch steps, sipping a beer, the flag whispering softly above. Rachel joined him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever wish we'd picked a quieter place?" she asked. Ethan smiled faintly. This was supposed to be the quiet place. But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to back down, not until she got her way. And sure enough, the next morning, a county vehicle pulled up outside their house. Karen stood beside it, smiling triumphantly as two officials stepped out with clipboards. Rachel's heart sank. Ethan stood tall. The battle for his flag had just become official. The sun blazed overhead as two county officials walked up Ethan's driveway, their reflective vests bright against the green of his lawn. Karen trailed behind them like a shadow, clipboard ready, phone already recording. "Sergeant Cole," one of the officials began, "we've received multiple complaints from your HOA regarding a code violation, unauthorized flag display, and installation without permit." Ethan folded his arms. "You're talking about that flag?" He nodded toward the pole where the stars and stripes fluttered proudly. "That's correct," the man said politely. "Technically, HOA guidelines require pre-approval for any permanent installations exceeding 8 feet. Karen interrupted. "It's not about patriotism. It's about order. These military types think they're above the rules." "Ma'am," the official warned softly. "Please." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Sir, with respect, I fought under that flag. I buried friends under it. If your HOA wants to call this a crime, then go ahead. But I'm not taking it down." Karen scoffed. "That's insubordination. Typical." Before anyone could respond, the distant rumble of engines rolled through Maplewood Estates. Deep, powerful, like thunder. The neighbors came out of their houses, shielding their eyes against the sun. Down the street, 3 Army vehicles turned the corner, 2 Humvees and a transport truck painted in desert tan. Rachel gasped. "Ethan, what did you do?" Ethan blinked, equally confused. "Nothing." The vehicles came to a stop in front of his house. Soldiers in uniform stepped out, not in combat gear, but in formal dress. The lead man was Captain Ryan Mercer, Ethan's former commanding officer. He approached with a respectful nod. "Sergeant Cole, heard someone's trying to take your flag." Karen's mouth fell open. "What is this?" Captain Mercer turned to her. "Ma'am, this flag, the one your HOA is fining him for, was flown during Operation Sentinel. It's a memorial flag. 27 men served under it. 5 never came home." A heavy silence fell across the street. The officials exchanged glances. Neighbors gathered closer. Ethan swallowed hard. "Sir, I didn't ask anyone to come." "We know," Mercer said. "But word travels fast when someone tries to shame a soldier's symbol." Karen's face reddened. "This is intimidation. I'll call the police." "You do that," said Mercer calmly, "and they'll tell you the same thing. Federal law protects the right to fly the American flag, any size, anywhere in this country." Rachel's eyes welled up. Neighbors began clapping, softly at first, then louder. Old Mr. Jennings raised his trembling hand in salute. Ethan looked around, the crowd, the soldiers, the flag flapping fiercely against the blue sky. For the first time since coming home, he felt seen. Karen lowered her phone, suddenly unsure of herself. This isn't over," she stammered, retreating toward her house. Captain Mercer turned to Ethan. "You did your job overseas. We'll handle this one here." As Karen disappeared behind her blinds, a wave of unity swept through the street. Kids held tiny flags, parents smiled with pride, and Ethan stood tall beside the symbol that had carried him through war. The Army hadn't come to fight, they'd come to stand with him. The next morning, Maplewood Estates looked different. For the first time in years, people were talking, not about lawns or mailbox heights, but about respect. Every neighbor who'd once stayed silent now waved when Ethan passed. Flags began appearing on porches up and down the street. Small, large, some old and frayed. But each one carried the same quiet message. We remember. Karen's house, however, stayed dark. Curtains drawn. The clipboard didn't appear that morning. Or the next. The HOA board called an emergency meeting that weekend, and to everyone's surprise, it wasn't Ethan who showed up angry. It was the neighbors. Mike the mailman, old Mr. Jennings, young families, retirees. They packed the small community hall until there wasn't a seat left. Karen tried to call the meeting to order, but her voice shook under the weight of all those eyes. I just wanted consistency, she began weakly. Rules keep neighborhoods peaceful. Ethan stood from the back row, speaking calmly but with weight in every word. Peace doesn't come from rules, Karen. It comes from respect. You can't find someone into loving where they live. You build that by standing with people, not above them. The room went silent. For a long moment, Karen didn't move. Then, with a deep breath, she put her clipboard down. Maybe I forgot that somewhere along the way. Ethan nodded slightly, not in victory, but in understanding. A week later, the HOA email went out. Rule revision. Homeowners may display the American flag of any standard size. No fines or restrictions apply. That same day, a knock came at Ethan's door. Karen stood there, looking different, smaller, humbled. She held out an envelope. Your fines rescinded. And, she hesitated. Thank you for your service. Ethan took the envelope and gave a polite nod. Appreciate that. Karen turned to leave, then paused. You know, my dad served in Vietnam. I used to hate that flag because it reminded me of the day he didn't come home. Her eyes glistened. Maybe I took that out on you. Ethan's voice softened. Then you know exactly why I couldn't take it down. She nodded, quietly walking away. That evening, the sun dipped low behind the rooftops, washing the neighborhood in gold. Ethan stood on his porch with Rachel and Ben, watching the flag ripple in the evening breeze. Ben pointed. Dad, look, everyone's got one now. Sure enough, nearly every house in Maplewood Estates had a flag waving proudly, a line of red, white, and blue stretching down the street like a silent salute. Rachel smiled. Guess your flag started something. Ethan chuckled. Maybe it just reminded them what they already knew. As the last light faded, the sound of kids playing echoed between the homes. For the first time since returning from war, Ethan felt something deeper than pride, belonging. The flag above him swayed gently, not as a statement of defiance, but as a symbol of unity. Because sometimes, the loudest battles aren't fought on foreign soil. They're fought right here, on quiet American streets, by people who refuse to forget what that flag truly means. United States.